finishing up our series called True today. We started out the series, Pastor Barry spoke on the concept of what truth is. And now truth is just this concrete thing, it's real, that like 2 + 2 = 4. It doesn't matter whether you believe it or not, it's just true. And then I came in the next week and I talked about the idea that there are true systems or false systems. How do you know if Christianity is true or Islam is true or this way of thinking is true, this worldview is true? How do you analyze them? And that was that week. And last week, we talked about how if something is true, it should change things. Truth should transform. But you can't talk about truth from a biblical perspective, and we're going to finish the series there today, without going to John chapter 14, to see what Jesus said about truth. Because Jesus said something just radically wild about truth. And if we don't deal with that, we've not dealt with the concept at all. So if you want to turn there. Now, John 14, we're at the very end of Jesus' earthly ministry. He is within hours of the cross. He's going to go to the cross. He's going to rise from the dead. He's going to ascend to heaven. All that's coming within hours. And so he gathers his key leaders into a room, and he teaches them things they need to know going forward. And here's what he says in John 14. Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. And I want to stop just right there. Don't let your hearts be troubled. What's going to happen over the next few days is these guys are going to be troubled. They're going to be worried. They're going to be concerned. He wants to give them a platform for relaxation, to chill. This is Jesus saying, okay, chill out. It's going to get weird. Don't let your heart get troubled. Stay relaxed. So this teaching is about them. It's something they need. It's not for him. It's for them. Okay. Then he says, my Father's house has many rooms. If that were not so, would I have told you that I'm going there to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you also may be where I am. You know the way to the place where I'm going. And at this point, Thomas, who is Mr. Questions, raises his hand. Thomas said to him, Lord, we don't know where you're going. So how can we know the way? And Jesus answered, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Now, a lot of people like to look at that statement and go, wow, you guys are arrogant. I mean, this Jesus guy, he's getting up saying, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. That's a little cocky, don't you think? Well, we'll talk about that. But I will say this. This is the summation of Christianity. Okay, whether you like it, don't like it, find it offensive, find it non-offensive, Jesus says it here in John chapter 14. His followers repeat it a lot when we get to the next book in just a few weeks. When they're going out telling people they should be Christians, they're going to say similar things to this. I read one guy said that the whole Gospel of John, this is the point it all points to, is this saying, this phrase, this is it. This is what we believe. Now, if somebody doesn't like that, I'm kind of sorry. But if we're going to be Christian, we have to say, this is here, this is real. But before you say that it's arrogant, number one, if you're a follower of Christ, we need to unpack this. We need to walk our way through it, because this last statement, no one comes to the Father except through me, is the one that everybody gets upset about. But the real issue is the first three things he says. I am the way, the truth, and the life. And we're going to unpack those three things, and I'm going to show you why I have very little trouble accepting this. And if you're not a follower of Christ, if you're somebody who's skeptical or cynical or curious, it's really important you understand what this is saying. Because when I say at the end of the service, if you'd like to have a relationship with Jesus Christ, this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. No one comes to the Father. No one comes to God except through Jesus Christ. And as we've talked about truth, it's either a true statement or it's a false statement. Okay? So, let's start. We're going to start, of course, with just the very one little bit at a time. The first thing Jesus said is, I am the way. Now, for us, in the 21st century, that really doesn't mean much. Right? It's just a thing. Now, for the Jews who Jesus is talking to, all his immediate followers initially, all these leaders were Jews. And for Jews, the word way was way out there. It was an important thing. Let me show you a couple things. In Psalm 16, the psalmist says, "You, God, will show me the way of life, granting me the joy of your presence and the pleasures of living with you forever." And in Isaiah 35, it says, "And a highway will be there. It will be called the way of holiness. It will be for those who walk in that way." There is for the Jews the concept that there is a path that gets them to God, the way. And they are looking for that path because, frankly, they've spent thousands of years not quite getting it right. I mean, the entire Hebrew Bible, the entire Old Testament, is a story of a people trying to get to God and failing. Matter of fact, just to give you how big a deal it is, in the early part of the Old Testament, in the early part of the Hebrew Bible, Solomon builds a temple, and God's presence, God's very presence, comes and lives in that temple, lives in that space. And then, during the time of Ezekiel, God's presence leaves, and it doesn't come back. They build another temple. They build a temple with Ezra and Nehemiah. They build this temple, and they're like waiting. And God doesn't show back up. Matter of fact, we would say God doesn't show up in the temple until Jesus walks back into it himself. Okay? So they've been looking for the way. And Jesus says, "Oh, I am the way." Now, it's important to understand that. He didn't say, "I know the way." He didn't say, "Yeah, that, over there. Here, let me give you directions. I can get you there. Here. Let me write." That's not it. Now, anybody ever been on the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel? The Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel. It's really cool, unless you're afraid of bridges or tunnels. And if you don't like bridges or tunnels, you don't like that place. I love it. I love it because it's like bridge and tunnel and bridge and tunnel. You got to pay off. It's expensive, but it's cool, and it gets you, I've said before, you have to go through D.C. You can actually go down the Delmarva Peninsula to get to Philadelphia from here without going through D.C. It's a long way, but you go through the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel. Now, let's say that it's big, it's huge, it's 4 lanes, it's a big thing in bridges and tunnels. Let's say that a truck comes out of the tunnel going south, and as it comes out, it jackknives. Not on purpose, it does that thing like the boat did in the Suez Canal. It just, poof, right there, okay? And of course, once it does it, it's up on the bridge a little bit. What's happening in the other lane? All right, and sure enough, as soon as this happens, there's this one car, and they slow down, and this one slows down, and then somebody rams into the back of them, not at high speed. I don't want an illustration where people get hurt, okay? Is that okay? Can we have a real nice, tame, safe illustration? And so somebody rams into the back of that one, and somebody hits it, and pretty soon there's like an 8-car pileup on the north lane, and there's a semi-truck blocking the left lane. Completely shut the thing down. Let's say that you work on the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel. Okay? You work on that island right there where all the mess is. And you want to go home when your shift is over. Okay? What do you call the tunnel you can actually get into and get back? It is the way. It's the way home. Jesus is saying all the other tunnels are blocked. All the other roads are blocked. I am the way. I'm not pointing you toward the way. I'm the way. Okay? Jesus doesn't just know the way or show the way. He is the way. Okay? When you say, "I am the way," you're not saying I can point you direct. I'm not giving you directions like you go into the country and somebody says, turn left where Leroy's barn used to be. No. This is, I am the way. That's what he's saying. Okay? Now, That's what he says, when he said that up there. No one comes to the Father except through, right? In Matthew talks about prophecy. He says all this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said through the prophet. In other words, the words of prophecy came through the prophet. The prophet didn't point and say, "Oh, there's what God said." It came through the prophet. And what Jesus is saying is, the way to God goes through me. The only way to God, through me. Okay? And then he says something even, we would say, stronger. I am the truth. Now I have to change things up from the whole series. Because one of the things we've said is that truth is anything that reflects reality. Something is true if it reflects reality. 2 plus 2 equals 4 because, why? Because 2 plus 2 equals 4. Okay? But Jesus is a whole different category of truth. Okay? Let's talk about gravity. Want some science geek? Let's play that for a little bit. We'll do philosophy, science geek. We're going to go all over the place. Hebrew history. We're just doing the whole thing. Congratulations. I'm going to go on vacation, so I've got to give you everything today. We're going to be here a while. Somebody order pizza. No. Now, gravity is real, right? Right? Yeah, I mean, if you're young, gravity is real because you fall. If you're old, gravity is real because everything you have falls. Right? That's how this works. And I could give you some facts about gravity. Like, gravity is actually any two objects in the universe that are close enough exert a gravitational pull on each other. As we walk around, the Earth is really, really, really big, so the Earth's gravitational pull on us is so big we don't notice the fact that we are, in fact, pulling it up very slightly. But when you get to a larger object, like, say, the moon is big enough that while the Earth exerts a gravitational pull on the moon, making it go like this around us, the moon exerts a gravitational pull on the Earth, which, among other things, contributes to, tides. When you're at the beach, you're watching the moon's gravity do its thing. Okay? If you go out to Jupiter, Jupiter's huge. It's got this huge gravitational field that pulls everything. And if each one of them has its own force of gravity, and we know this is I'm almost done. We know that the Earth's gravitational field is a certain strength, which means if I drop an object with no resistance, it will fall, it will accelerate at 32 feet per second. In other words, it'll get faster and faster at the rate of 32 feet per second. And I know that you're just glad you came for that. Here's the thing. There is gravity, and there is the descriptions that I gave about gravity, and there is the mathematical formulation that gravity exerts a force pull of 32 feet per second. But these are the expressions of the truth that is gravity. Gravity was true before anybody figured it out, right? I mean, it wasn't like Isaac Newton discovered gravity, and before that we just kind of floated around. Right? It was there, and then Isaac Newton recognized the truth. The truth was there, whether or not anybody recognized it or not. Well, this is the heavy thing that Jesus is saying. Okay? See, Jesus is not the most accurate reflection of reality. Jesus, I'm waiting for you to write it down, those who are taking notes. And also to let you have stress. Because stress is good. So I want you to stress on this statement. Jesus is not the most accurate reflection of reality. Reality is a reflection of Jesus. Jesus' gravity, what we see around us, is 32 feet per second. I know you don't believe me just yet. But here's what it says in John 1:3. Through Jesus, all things were made. Without him, nothing was made that has been made. Jesus is the foundation of reality. We just went from science to heavy philosophy like that. Feel it? Jesus is the core foundation of reality. And so everything that's real is real because it reflects Jesus. Everything is true or not true based on whether or not it reflects Jesus. The universe God created is a reflection of God. That's why we call it natural revelation. Because the universe is God revealing himself to us in the same way the Bible is special revelation, which is the God revealing himself in written word. And so God is revealing himself in Jesus Christ. So Jesus, the universe, reflects Jesus. That's why I say, I talk about reunions once in a while. I went to one last week, and I'm not going to tell you how many years it was because I think they got the math wrong. I mean, I just can't. The number just doesn't work for me. So I'm not going to tell you how long they said it had been since we were in high school, but it couldn't have been that long because I'm old, but seriously here. But you know what? There were changes in some of the people who were there. Matter of fact, it was quite the trick to remember who they were, because you're looking through stuff, aren't you? When you're looking at somebody who walks in for your 40th, your anniversary, you're looking through all of the years that have poured on that person and all of the things they've done over the years that have poured on that person. And I've said this many, many times. I can tell. It's not universally every time, but as a general concept, I can tell you how a person has lived their life in relation to God's standards by how old they look. Because if you choose to live against God's standards, you look older than if you don't. It's just a basic rule of nature. Just look around, you'll see it. Matter of fact, how do we say it? We say, oh, they had a hard life. What's that mean? They look old. That's a polite way of saying they look old. They've had a hard life, okay? And so they're living against God's standards. Why does that matter? Because God's universe is a reflection of himself, which means his universe reflects his standards. So when you're living opposed to God's standards, you're living opposed to his universe, which is hard. And youngins, you don't want to look old? I got a way. Okay? So Jesus is reality. And everything else is just a reflection of that reality. Okay? And then he says, because that was fun enough, I am the life. See, here's what he said in John 8:12. I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. Okay? Jesus offers us life. One of my favorite verses, I didn't put it up here because I use it all the time, is Jesus said, I've come to give them life to the full. In other words, Jesus is the embodiment of our life's desires. That's what he's saying he is. I am the life. This is what you were created for. You were made in the image of God so that you would live a certain way and accomplish certain things and be a certain way. And that is me. Okay? Augustine put it this way as a prayer. You have made us for yourself, and our heart is restless until it rests in you. So life is fulfilled in Jesus. That's what he's saying. Okay, let me back that up just a second, because some of you might be a little more skeptical and cynical. Did I say skeptical and cynical? Yeah, or skeptical and cynical, depending on your way you like to say things. And you're going, I'm not saying you have to buy this. I'm saying this is what we're selling. Okay? I can go into Bed, Bath, and Beyond Body Works, whatever those things are called. The ones where you walk in the door and you feel your man points just draining as soon as you... There's a smell there that's just... It is the anti-masculine odor. I don't know where they get it at, but they all have it, and it's like... I'm shriveling, right? That's what they're selling. I don't have to buy it. I can go to Bed, Body Works, and Beyond, and I can walk around with my wife, and I can escape and not purchase a thing when I'm there, right? So when we say this is what we're selling. I'm not saying you have to buy it if you're not a believer. I'm saying this is what we're selling. Okay? If you don't, that's fine. But understand, what we're saying is Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And what comes out of that is the last part of this. No one comes to the Father except through me. Which, if he is those other things, this is logical. Okay? If he's not those other things, then this is just an arrogant statement. But it's not. See, truth is not judgmental. It just is. 2 plus 2 equals 4. Gravity on Earth has an acceleration of 32 feet per second per second. Truth just is. Okay? So Jesus either is or is not the truth. It's not judgmental. Matter of fact, if he's not the truth, he's not judgmental, he's just wrong. You know, I can tell you I'm a doctor. Tell you with passion. I'm not judging anybody. I'm just not a doctor. I wanted to be a doctor, but my handwriting's not good enough. So if Jesus isn't the truth, he's not judgmental. He's just wrong. But if he is the truth, if he is the way, the truth, and the life, then nobody comes to the Father except through him is the logical next statement. It is the QED of this argument. It is the proof. Now, let me clarify something for you, because some of you are going, oh, no. The verse does not address the ways in which Jesus brings people to the Father. It doesn't say, and this is exactly how it happens every time. But what it does say is that no one who ends up sharing God's life will do so apart from Jesus. And so you ask me, Steve, what happens to people who never hear about Jesus? I don't know. I know that God is completely loving and completely fair and completely just. Whatever solution he has is completely loving, completely just, and completely fair, and it's not in my pay grade to figure it out. Okay? But I do know that anyone who comes to God comes through Jesus. Okay? I'll stop there because I am perfectly willing. I am at least old enough to know there's a whole lot of stuff I don't know. And that's one of them. Okay? So I'm not trying to... So I don't think we're being judgmental when we say, this is what Jesus says. I'm going to give you something, it's going to offend some people, because, end of the month, I got to get it in. Can I show you something that's judgmental? Something that really is judgmental, in my humble opinion? That's judgmental. You ever seen this bumper sticker? I hate this bumper sticker. I see this bumper sticker, I want to get a bat out of my car. And I don't have a bat in my car, so I'd have to go into Dick's Sporting Goods and buy it and come back out. Because here's what this bumper sticker says. What you think it says is, oh, we should all just get along. No, what it says is, none of these matter. Because they can't all be right. It's not possible for them all to be right. This group says there's a certain way to get into the afterlife. These are Islam. There's a certain way you get in the afterlife. It goes through Muhammad, and This one says Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through him. This one says there is no afterlife. Not in a meaningful, tangible way. They can't all be right. So what are you saying when you put them all in one line like that? They're all wrong. I've figured it out. And all you religious folk, you're getting it wrong. But I know the answer to the question. I'm sorry for you people. You poor religious nuts. I really feel bad for you. You should quit fighting because this doesn't matter. All that matters is living up to my standards, which I'm imposing on you through a bumper sticker. And so I want to go to the trunk and get me a bat. Okay? Because here's what this person's saying. You see this? This is the World Religions by Percentage, 2007, so it's a few years old. But they took all the Christians and put us here, all the different flavors, largest religion in the world. Also, by the way, in case you're curious, it's the most geographically diverse religion in the world. Covers more bases than anywhere else. It's the most ethnically diverse religion in the world, by a long shot. So next time you say we're judgmental, why are we in more places with more ethnic groups than anybody else? Just saying. Muslims 20, Hindus 13, Buddhists 5, other religions 12, non-religious, they didn't want to make up their mind, 12, atheists 2. And the 2 or the 11 or the 13, whichever we're going to go with it, are telling these, yeah, you guys are wrong. And you've been wrong forever. I know people have had religious faith from the beginning of time, but you were all wrong, and I figured it out. So take your bumper sticker off your stinking car and leave me alone. Sorry, I just had to get that out once in a while. That has to come out, okay? Because here's the reality. Tom Wright says this: if you dethrone Jesus, you enthrone something or someone else instead. If you say Jesus isn't the way, you come up with something else. And frequently for Americans, it's our own logic, it's our reason, it's our whatever phrase we want to use. Or as another great philosopher said, you got to serve somebody. It's Bob Dylan, for those of you. Okay, if you're under 40, I know you didn't get that at all. But if you're over 40, you're welcome. Okay? Because we're naturally inclined to serve. We're naturally inclined to worship. We're naturally inclined to seek something bigger and greater and beyond. It's part of our DNA. Humans throughout history have always sought something bigger and greater. You can go to any human settlement of any kind, anywhere, any time, and they are pursuing something bigger and greater than themselves. Period. If you can find one that doesn't, show me. I'm confident you won't. Okay? But Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. I believe that, and I teach that. But Thomas, to start the whole process off, said this: Lord, we don't know where you're going, so how can we know the way? Think about that just for a second. Now, Jesus hasn't told him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me. But he's been implying it for a long time. And Thomas raises his hands and asks a really impertinent question. And you know what happens immediately after? He says this. Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. And you know what happens next? Another dude raises his hands and asks another question. You would think after I am the way, the truth, and the life, no one comes to the Father except through me, that we've pretty much got the question and answer session of the event over with. We've covered it. We're done. We can leave now. Let's head out to the Mount of Olives and get this whole thing rolling. But no, a guy asks a question. You know what Jesus does to this impertinent question? He answers it. And every time any one of them asks a question, he answers it. And you're saying, Jesus, didn't you cover that already? Yeah, but he didn't get it. I'm going to keep answering. See, here's the last piece. Truth is neither judgmental nor intimidated by questions. You want to ask me a question? Go for it. I may not know the answer because I don't know everything. I'm okay with that. I know a few things, though. Matter of fact, we kind of structure our whole church on the concept that people ask questions. Okay? See, here's what I believe. I believe God works through our questions to move us toward Himself. God works through our questions to move us toward Himself. An honest, open question is a pathway to God, not a rejection of God. So Jesus has these guys who are following him around, and they keep asking stupid questions, and he keeps answering the stupid questions until one day Peter said, wait a second, you're the Christ. You're the Messiah. You're the Son of God. I got it. And all of us do that. That's our path. Our path is we're standing there going, I don't understand. And we ask another question and another question, and God patiently, graciously lets us ask questions and gives us more information, and lets us ask questions and gives us more information. And then for many of us in this room and watching online, you've had that moment when you get, oh, that applies to me. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and Steve can't come to the Father except through him. Got it. And you know how long that's supposed to take? long as it takes. We structure everything here with the concept that I'm not going to convince you in 1 week. That's pretty defeatist, isn't it? But we structure the whole place on, if you're coming here and you're not a Christian, I'm not going to convince you the first week. There's too far to go. There's too much you need to understand. There's too many questions you need answered. So I do this at Easter. And Easter, a lot of people are like, at Easter you want to try to get people to accept Christ, and I do. But then at the end of every Easter service, I'll say, if you're not ready, come back next week. We're going to do this thing again. We're going to ask more questions. We're going to try to answer more questions. We're going to lay more stuff out in front of you because we believe that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and that no one comes to the Father except through Him. But I don't expect you to believe it the first time I tell you. I don't expect you to believe it without you asking questions. I don't expect you to believe it until you've dug down deep into your soul and asked the questions you need to ask. Because the question Thomas asked was different than the question the other disciples asked. Everybody had their questions, and Jesus patiently answered all their questions while pointing at, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Over and over. Okay? Matter of fact, he said this in answer to the next question. If you really know me, you'll know my Father as well. Anyone who's seen me has seen the Father. And now, I just talked to the people who don't have faith. Can I talk to those of you who do for just a second more? Because this is really important. Anyone who's seen me has seen the Father. Because we have really bad habits of creating a God in our own image. We have who we want God to be. We have what we want God to look like. And so we will construct a God who's exactly what we want. Which is silly if what? Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through Him. For me to try to build my own tunnel, to build my own way, to make a God who looks like what I want God to look like, because if I were making my own God from scratch, there are things I would change, because I'm an idiot. Right? I would not let us go through hard times because I don't like hard times. Right? If I were God, things would be such a mess because I'm dumb. But I still try to make God live into my expectations. Tom Wright says this way, don't come with a fixed idea of who God is and then try to fit Jesus into that. Look at Jesus and you'll see who the true God is. We take our culture, we take some of Plato, we take some of Socrates, we take all the different philosophies and we bring it in and we say, God should look like this. And then Jesus walks into a crowd by a pool. And there's dozens of sick people. Dozens of people who have permanent illnesses, people who are maimed and lame, people who are deaf, people who can't hear. They're all around this pool, and Jesus walks up to the pool. Now, what does your God do right there? My God takes the fairy dust, sprinkles it on everybody. That's what my God would do. If I were making a God from scratch, that's what He'd do. What does Jesus do in that situation? You guys remember, you Bible geeks, you know that story? Jesus, there's people, sick people, and Jesus goes, excuse me, pardon me, sorry about that, I didn't mean to step on your hand. Excuse me, pardon me, healed. Excuse me, pardon me, excuse me, pardon me. Jesus is with these guys in John 14, 15, 16, and 17. He's with them in the upper room. They're His leaders. They're the ones. And it says, one of my favorite things in this passage is where there's a verse that says Jesus knew at that moment that He had all power, that everything came from Him, that He was the most powerful being in existence. Okay, what's your God do at that point? What's your God do when He figures out He's the most powerful one? Okay? I know what Jesus does. Jesus takes off His robe and washes His disciples' feet. Wow, that's That's not the God I was building. And maybe, just maybe, to you and to us Christians, we should quit trying to make a God in our image. And we should come openly to Jesus and say, that's what God looks like. That's the real picture. Can I tell you a secret? For the people who don't believe, the real Jesus is much more attractive than anything we build in our own little labs. The Jesus who really walked the earth, who really did the things we see, who really did all this stuff, who really comes into our lives as the way. Not some abstract concept way over there. My way, Steve's way. The truth, the ground of reality. The life. The life to the full, the life abundantly, the life that makes sense of everything else. That God coming into my life and showing out is much more attractive than the judgmental God some of us build or the wishy-washy God others build. That God who is the way, the truth, and the life, who no one comes to the Father except through him, that's attractive to them, and it should be powerful for us. As a guy said, Jesus is a truth because he has the perfect power of making life one coherent experience, irrespective of its ups and downs. Jesus is the glasses through which the world makes sense to me. And if you're a follower of Christ, don't substitute a different set of glasses. Don't create your own frames. Look to Jesus, the author and completer of your faith. And if you don't have a relationship with Christ, this is who we're selling. This is what I'm inviting you to. Now, it's probably not the God you're used to seeing on television. It's not the God that a lot of Christians portray. It's definitely not the God that Hollywood wants you to think about. This is the one we have. And if you'd like to talk to somebody about a relationship with Christ, well, the easiest thing to do is to send an email to, if you're online, to send an email to steve@southsprings.org. If you're in the auditorium, the easiest thing to do is at the end of the service to go up to the corner of the stage there, or somebody in the back too, and grab one of these blue bags. And if you grab a blue bag, we're not going to lecture you. We're going to slowly take some time, 7-10 minutes. It's not a long time. We're going to unpack the bag with you and show you how to have a relationship with Christ, the one who is the way, the truth, and life. Okay? And if you still got more questions, a couple things to do. One is, come back. We keep asking the questions. We keep looking in. We keep digging week after week after week. And we find that over time, people find what they're looking for, and they reach that point where they go, oh, got it. And if you really want messages, and I think I'm possibly talking to a guy tomorrow who's trying to make sense of all this. So just keep asking the questions. Keep opening up. Keep letting God. Matter of fact, here's a prayer. God, if you're real, show me. God, if you're real, show me. He's really good at answering that prayer. Now, if you have a relationship with Christ, you've never announced it, that's called baptism. Email baptism@southsprings.org. We'll get that taken care of for you. If you're in the auditorium and we've said something speaking to you today and you'd like to pray about it, we've got a cross over in the corner. Just watch the water. You can go over there and pray about anything you want to pray with. If you want to pray with a couple people, we've got some people on the outside walls. Love to pray with you. If you want to take communion, we've got a communion station right here. If you'd like to know more about the church and how you can connect with us, we have what we call orientation chats. Send an email to steve@southsprings.org, and we'll connect you with a a pastor or one of the elders, and we'll spend some time and we'll just talk to you about, first we'll listen to your story. You tell us your story, God working in your life. We'll tell you our story, how God works in our church to do things that matter. And then we'll talk about how we can work together so that you can become the person God created you to be, and together we can do great things for God and things that matter for God and in our culture. Okay? Let's pray. Father, thank you for today. Father, thank you that Jesus, I believe, didn't just claim to be the way, the truth, and the life. Thank you for the fact that he is. That he is everything he claimed to be. And Father, for those who still have questions, we pray that you help them to ask the questions, help them to grow into those questions, continue to answer questions. For those who are ready to accept you, help them to accept you today. For those of us who are followers, help us to quit building a Jesus in our image and lead into the Jesus who reveals the true God. And Father, always we've got people that are deployed. We pray for them, keep them safe, bring them home soon, be with their families, encourage them, strengthen them. And Father, help us to live a life that reflects the fact that we know and believe that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and that no one comes to the Father except through him. And it's in his name we pray. Amen.